Hi, I'm Brittney Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. I'm your host today, Brittney Ashley. If you don't know who I am, you're going to get to know me a little bit in this show. Today is Monday, January 8th, and we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And today I'm calling in from Victoria, BC. It's 12 here. It's a little chilly, but I'm really excited to have our guest speaker, Adriana, to come and talk to us about my show and also who she is as well. So Adriana should be coming in any moment.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Brittney.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. I'm like having my own imposter syndrome right now. As I already told you, just winging it. And jumping in both feet first.
That's how everybody does it. Remember, fake it till you make it.
Yes, 100%. Well, thank you so much for coming in to chat with me today. As some of you might know, Adriana from Negotiating Happiness, who comes in at 1 p.m. before the show and then comes in and talks about all things business life and all of that. So let's just do a quick introduction of who you are, Adriana, and then we'll dig in deep.
Wonderful. So I am Adriana from OntarioAssistant.com. I'm an online business manager. So it kind of ties in with my show a little bit, where we talk about entrepreneurship, parenting, and kind of what makes us happy as entrepreneurs. But on my work side of life, it's more about making entrepreneurs' lives a little bit easier. I specialize in operations and helping them get systems set up and basically helping them create a business that they can walk away from and still run and be profitable and kind of make this whole struggle and hustle worth it. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. We lean a little bit towards tech. We lean a little bit towards, marketing, the business principles, depending on where the business is and where it needs to be. So we are BFFs with businesses.
Yes, and I can totally relate to a lot of the things that you just said as well, because I wear many hats like you do. Not only are you a mom, but you also run your own business, but also too, I do all the same things at Crave Dynamics. And so we just have always had synergy. When I was on your show at Negotiating Happiness, would love you to tell more people on your show. You're the different guest speakers. So then if you're looking for anybody, then they can outreach to you as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been really fortunate. I've had some really interesting speakers, authors. I've had coaches. I tried to kind of delve a little bit into the, sometimes the spiritual. I feel like it flows really well with the station. But also because I personally think it ties in with a lot of our, psychology. So it's spiritual, but it's also science related, right? Like it ties into how we run our businesses, what outlook we have on life, on parenting, on everything else. So I kind of like to have an array of people on. We've had Megan Reed, who just put out a book. We've had Zach Fagenberg, he put out a book. I just finished an episode actually with Motion.io's co-founder, Sam Schlabowski. And again, it just kind of varies, but everything is geared towards how to help entrepreneurs, how to deal with all the other things that kind of go around. And I have a feeling your show is going to be fairly similar, and you're going to have some really interesting guests. I would love to know what kind of guests you're going to have.
What are we going to do over here? Let's dive in. For who doesn't know me or haven't watched Negotiating Happiness, I'll just do a quick little montage of who I am. Who is Brittney Ashley? As I mentioned, I wear many hats. I'm the owner-founder of a company called Creative Dynamic Virtual Services, which we match you to your perfect virtual assistant or online business manager. And really, at the end of the day, we're kind of doing similar things what Adriana is doing as well. We do system setups, online business management support, project management, administration, pretty much you name it, we can do it. The only thing that's different is that we're team-based. So if that one team member can't do X, Y, and Z, you'll reach out to me, and then I'll bring in somebody else to kind of segue in to do maybe a special Excel spreadsheet and whatsoever. So that's a bit about Creative Dynamics, but I did start the business to help moms work from home, which is a big part of my life. I have two little ones. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So they do keep me busy, but I love them, adore them. I feel like I always have to keep on keeping on, keep the busyness.
It's hard. It's hard for whoever is out there listening. This stuff is hard.
I tend to thrive off of it, I guess, in a way. Because I did start the business literally with my 8-month-old daughter by my side, and now we're coming on 5 years, which is crazy. And yes, like any kind of business entrepreneur life, it's a roller coaster, but you just kind of have to grab on both hands and go for the ride and have like such a positive mindset to get your brain, once you're going through those struggles, to kind of, okay, today's the low point. What can I do to the next point to get to the next hurdle? Right. So with that, when I started my first kind of overall journey, I figured out that there was a lot of the women on my team were experiencing imposter syndrome, not feeling like they were good enough, not thinking that they were overall really being their best selves. And I truly believe that everyone can be their best self. We just need to give them the platform to be their best selves and ask those curious questions to make sure they're feeling comfortable. So with that, I guess I'm a leader. I make sure that everybody's comfortable on the team, but I moved forward and became a certified imposter syndrome coach, a certified business coach, so then I can make sure that I'm there for the team in more ways than one. I love to challenge myself to wear multiple hats. I love to learn and always move that momentum. And how Breaking Norms and Building Dreams started is overall, I really thought that when I went through my coaching journey, is that I always was told that I can't do anything. And I think that's kind of where I'm like, no, I can tell myself that I can't do anything, but you don't have the right to tell me yes or no kind of situation. And then, oh, you're going to say something, Adriana?
No, I was just thinking, like, how many women go through that? How many women are told that? Like, this is such a relevant point of your show, I think. And I think a lot of people will resonate with it, right? Like, how many times have you been told, oh no, like, you're not going to be able to do that, or just no, without any explanation, you know, like you've just been turned down for whatever opportunity without an explanation. I think this is why your platform is so important, to show people that, hey, I've gone through exactly the same thing. This is how I navigated, and this is how we're not going to like gatekeep. We're not going to, you know, we're going to help each other out to get where we are. So this is amazing. And I'm so glad that I'm able to be on your show.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so happy to have you here. I feel like we have so much synergy, and I think this is not going to be the first show. I think you and I will kind of navigate what that's going to look like, but kind of go back between both shows and try to segue through different topics, because I think there's just so many topics that you and I have in common, not just a mom, but so many other things. The one topic that we didn't really touch on is neurodiversity, and that's another piece that I really want to bring into the show a bit more. I want to bring different experts in. I am not an expert. However, I was diagnosed very young with dyslexia at age 6, 7, I believe. And so that's kind of like the part of my journey of being told like I was never good enough. So really, it probably stemmed from like grade 2, from what I can remember, of teachers not understanding what neurodiversity is or what dyslexia is or whichever, and just kind of like stagnating you into that box so you can't actually be like your true person that you should be. And so when linking back to my whole coaching journey, I felt like I was just always getting pushed. And they weren't giving me like the extra time to do my certification or anything like that. Doing generally speaking, I need 6 hours to do an exam. Usually what I was always given in university or school, because that's usually how the brain works. Some could relate maybe from the anxiety part with dyslexia. It just takes so much longer for you to read something, and you have to read it multiple times to comprehend it. And it's like, so once you have that time meter on a test, and then you have the anxiety factor on it, that's just like kabam. Like you're just, you can't even think straight, to be honest, just because
Totally.
you're so stressed.
And I wanted to totally agree with what you said a little while ago about how it all started with like your teachers in elementary school telling you that you can't do something. And that is so important because it comes from a lack of knowledge and understanding, like you said.
Mhm.
They didn't know what they were talking about. But the problem is, you as like a second grader, you're not going to realize that. So you're just going to keep taking in this wrong information, and you're going to start acting it out, or you're going to start forming your own personality, what you think your abilities are based on this information. So it's kind of a comment on our education system and
Mhm.
how we need to deal with these things really early on. It's not just a comment, right? To a child, this could be detrimental, right? So it's crazy to me that people haven't figured that out, right? And I know that I have a child, but even before I had a child, I understood this. I did a lot of work with kids in camps, and there were a lot of kids that came from really normal, like, some of them were from privileged families, some of them were from not so privileged families, normal, what you'd consider normal, whatever that is, or whatever you would consider abnormal, and they all had very similar issues. So obviously the outside environment really shapes you as a person, right? Like, you know how they say that it takes a village to raise somebody. The
Yeah.
problem is like, as moms, we don't always have control over who that village is,
Yeah. I love
right?
that, because that's
Yeah.
so true. And sometimes you have to find the hard way who
Right.
your village is, or even you might think who your village is, and then it can totally switch. Like when I first had
Right.
my daughter, I was like so excited, like I'm going to go into all these mom groups, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then I just found it was horrible. It was, that's also like triggers on imposter syndrome too. If you're like type A, like you want to be like the perfect mom, or maybe your the other part of being like imposter syndrome is like you always have to read all the books and like ace the test and all the things.
Yeah.
It's like a handful of triggers, and so I just never really got along really in the mom groups, and I end up segmenting myself away when I had my second child. And to
Right.
be honest, I feel so much more confident, and like I'm always trying to like Google things. Not, don't get me wrong,
We
but I'll
use we
Google.
use the we use the we use the resources that we have
Exactly.
available to us. Just because we don't quite mesh with somebody doesn't mean that we're not doing the best that we can for our child. And I feel like that's such a huge lesson to learn when you first become a mom. It's like, you don't have to be like, you don't have to adopt anybody else's parenting style. You just have to do whatever you think is best for your child, right? So I mean, what what else is there? Like, if you don't vibe with somebody, you don't vibe with them. It doesn't mean that you're not part of the group. This isn't high school. It's not about popularity. It's not about, oh, you can't do it that way. Like, I'll give you an example that is, this is probably gonna, like, a lot of people are, if they're moms, they're probably gonna be screaming at this. But this is a perfect example
Yeah.
that I learned later. You know, when you use like the community of for like car seat safety is huge, and there are entire groups dedicated to this, of just moms that literally read up on this stuff like day in and day out, which I totally appreciate. That wasn't me. I did it when I first got a car seat. I went on those groups, and then I felt like I had to leave because there was so much aggression towards people
Yeah.
posting pictures and asking for help that I was like, I can't deal with that. So I did my research. I knew how to do it. I used my booklet for my manual from, the car seat that came with it. And then I realized, somebody said something to me that stuck with me. You're supposed to take off like winter jackets for kids and to be able to get it tight.
Yeah.
Well, I met a mom who didn't, and my immediate reaction wasn't to be like, that's wrong, was I asked her why, and I'm so glad I did. So we lived in the country at the time. So she said to me that it takes like 8 to 10 minutes sometimes for a ambulance to get dispatched from a different town, because we were so small, we didn't have our own, that if something happened and she was unconscious and she couldn't get to the back, and it's the middle of winter and there's like snow whiteouts everywhere, that ambulance might not make it there for like an hour. And your kid could literally die from being too cold in the car, or to getting hypothermia or whatever else, right? So she weighed out the risk factors and said, we live in the country, this is where I drive most of the time, my kid's gonna have their, she's like, I don't buy the huge puffy ones, but they're gonna have their winter jacket on, and I'll put it as tight as I can. And that was just so eye-opening to me, that to me made sense, because I also lived in the country. But if you were to talk to one of those moms that were crazy, they would be like, absolutely not. You will be responsible for the death of your child. And that's something crazy to say to a new mom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is insane to say that to somebody that's new. I can take it a little bit better now. I mean, Zach is 3, but if I was like hormonal and just going in, it's not, that's just, if that's not your vibe, it's not your vibe for a reason. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's maybe how you think about asking curious questions than just on attack of like,
that's right.
Like, you're crazy.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
You're crazy. That's wrong. Don't do it. It's like, whoa, right? It's kind of the same in business too, if you think about it.
Yep, 100%. And that's like the things that we were practicing with. I've taken so many coaching courses in the last bit, trying to remember, but everybody is kind of ingrained in judgmental mind frame, no matter what. I wish I could remember the name of the program. I'll have to think of this.
It's about biases, right? What is it called? Now my words are going out the window. Unconscious biases, right?
Yes. But we're all kind of shaped in a different way of like these different 5 pillars. And like for me, for example, I strive from perfectionism, and then it's also judgment. I'm trying to remember all the different cues. But the thing is, you work on yourself, like it's an app, and you work on yourself of like, instead of seeing that person not tying their shoe, how can you change your mind frame of why haven't they tried like tie their shoe? Like asking more curious questions than coming in from a judgmental state, because unfortunately we're always going to have that in the back of our brain a little bit, but it's just how we can reframe it than going in complete tack mode.
And that's very true too for a business mindset, right? Like it's the same way. It's the same thing with trying to reframe things, trying to reframe questions or issues that you might have, and that works a lot in my field too. Like when you have an issue, it's not necessarily an issue. It might be an opportunity for me to literally unpack all of your operations and just detangle everything and make everything work 10 times better. And that could have stemmed from this one thing that you just couldn't get over, right? So it's kind of the same. It relates, and it's especially with this is what they say. They say that sometimes neurodiverse brains have a different way of thinking. And I personally think that that's very helpful, because sometimes I see connections in things that people don't. Where it's not helpful is that it sometimes takes me a little bit longer to explain exactly what's going on in my brain, and people are like, I don't get it, right? So that takes a little bit of work. But the initial part, I think it's like a superpower. I think that it allows me to find these systems and be like, you think it goes this way, but it's like goes behind, and this is how you're able to connect everything, right? Like from getting leads on your website to creating a process to putting that process into a CRM, and then linking it back to like your billing, your project management, and sometimes people's brains don't work like that, but mine does.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's because I've hired Adriana to come in to help my systems, because I know, like, I was at level of burnout, which is a very important topic to kind of know when you are at that level of burnout, because once you hit it, it's really hard to come back from it. but knowing like your different cues of what is burnout for you, because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
That's why I reached out to you, because I was like, I know exactly how to build a system. I've done so many systems. I know how to do X, Y, and Z, but I am at burnout. My brain can't even figure out how to do X to Z right now. Sorry,
Yeah.
losing my voice. And so that's why I reached out to you, and I was like, I need you to help me, because I know you'll understand my brain where I'm going with this.
Yeah. But it's huge. It's so huge. Like sometimes people can't work together because of that missing component. And I think it goes down to who your ideal clients are and who's your target market, right?
100%.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's not that because you can't do it. And I find that with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially moms,
Yeah.
because we're geared towards like, we're expected to do so many things at the same time, and we're told that like you can just multitask. But now, knowing better, we know that the brain can't actually multitask. You're just using very little bandwidth for everything instead of being super efficient at something else. But that's what's expected of moms. So I feel like if you take a mom that's also an entrepreneur and you like combine it together, you're going to get somebody who's like, well, I can do my own graphics. I can do my own socials. I can build my own website. I can build my own system. It's like, yeah, you can. But should you is like a totally different question of like, I've been there too, you know, like right where you are, where it's like, I need help. Like I need help badly. I need somebody to take these pieces away from me because my brain just can't function anymore and then still be productive at what the actual client work is, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Totally.
I would want to circle back to one of your comments about the school districts. This might be a hot topic for a lot. As a mom who just has a little one going to kindergarten their first year, I'm very like hyper vigilant on like all the different things that are like what I need to do in place, because like I mentioned, like I was diagnosed at a young age with dyslexia. And so with all my kids, I put them at a very young age to Queen Alexander if they weren't hitting the milestones. And I just really want to reiterate to people, it's good to like kind of watch the milestones, but you don't have to like be like, oh, like sitting there with a checklist. And I wasn't necessarily doing that, but I know that with the QA, that you need to make sure you reach certain milestones, and it's good to gauge it now, because then you can get that support right away with them, versus if you fall into the system, because there's systems, you can't get that support and you have to wait until they get to a certain age. So both my kids actually have been with the QA at least, I would say my daughter has been with the QA since 8 months, maybe 6 months, actually, 6 months. And then my son has been with the QA since like a newborn, because we're struggling with feeding and sensitivity and all that.
Can you describe a little bit for listeners that maybe are not local what QA is?
Sorry, Queen Alexander system. Okay. So there's just kind of like there's a QA Queen Alexander hospital here for the children, but they also have a health network here in Victoria and I think in other provinces. Where you can kind of go and get that extra support for when you're just like a new mom, and or support groups. I did suffer a lot from postpartum with my daughter. And so I had that network there with my daughter, and they offered that for free. So it's good to kind of like take a look to see if that's in your general area. I believe it's all like
a program, right?
Yeah. Versus having to pay, because things do cost a lot and they add up very fast. But going back to that, both kiddos have been in the system for a very long time. And so I made sure that my daughter did a little bit extra assessments before we moved forward and got her ready for kindergarten. And now we have all this stuff in place. So if because dyslexia is hereditary, ADHD is hereditary.
I didn't know that. I mean, I can believe that, but I didn't know that dyslexia was. That's interesting.
Apparently, I'm not an expert by any means. It's just called.
No, everybody needs to do their own research, but this is what we've read.
We will bring in experts, I promise you, on the show who can educate more. But this is just from my Google searching of Google land. However, from searching, I have found that dyslexia is hereditary and ADHD and other neurodiversities. And majority of the time, if you're diagnosed with one, and if they're hyper focused on the one, they might not catch something else. So I really think, because there's dyslexia, and then I'm self-diagnosed with ADHD, and it came more present after having my son.
Can I make a comment on that? I know that you were so careful to say that you're self-diagnosed with ADHD. So it's not like a trend. I want people to understand this. When I contacted my doctor about getting diagnosed with ADHD, he basically looked at me and said, well, I can either give you a questionnaire that you can fill out, which is a one-page questionnaire, or we can get you on a list to talk to a specialist at some point. That might be next year. And then they're going to have to do a bunch of assessments with you. And then. And it was like completely not feasible, not approachable. And if anybody knows anything, like I'm in Ontario. So Brittney is in BC, British Columbia, Canada. I'm in Ontario, Canada. I feel like Canada has a problem with accessing specialists, because it is true certain specialties don't have a lot of specialists available, depending on your geographical area as well. And when you get a referral, that's how it works here. You get a referral from your GP, your general practitioner, your doctor, family doctor, to go to these places. It takes almost a year. So what he did is he just did this questionnaire, and I feel like saying that too, that I am self-diagnosed, but doing all the research and like listening to people like you that have more experience in it, and basically ticking off boxes of like, yeah, that happens, then having aha moments of like, I got flashbacks from university when I was like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just sit down and do it? And I had such a hard time. And when I did it, it wasn't that the content was hard. I loved the content. I did really well. It was just that issue of like dopamine, serotonin, like the lack of, and I didn't know what to do. So I just went through university and struggled and made it extra long because I didn't know I had that. So that's kind of like a really long-winded what's going on in our healthcare system that we have to self-diagnose. You know what I mean?
And that's also part of the show. Let's like break those barriers down and talk about it, because the more we talk about it, then we're going to feel like we're not normal. We're all normal in our ways. We just need to, we shouldn't be just kind of pushed into a box. We should be more open about it and allowed to talk about it and ask those curious questions than if we do. And then we're just kind of looked like, why did you ask those weird questions? Like, it's not a weird question. Like, I have a very old school doctor. So I already know if I go in to ask him to do this, he'd be like, you're fine.
You're fine.
You're too young to, like, I already know his little spiel that he
Spiel, yeah, the spiel. I love there was, I really wish I saved this creator. It was from TikTok, and she was literally like making a joke out of it, but she's a female. So she would literally go in, doctor, I have pain with this. And the doctor would go, yeah, it's because you have a uterus. And it's like, oh, like my leg is like, I broke my leg. But yeah, it's because you have a uterus. Like it completely goes back to either like, you're too young, it's nonsense, or yeah, that's because you're a woman and it's normal. And I talked about this on my show too. And it's like, just because a large population of people are experiencing these symptoms or pain doesn't make it normal. It means that there's a really big problem, and you can't just keep sweeping it under the rug. Like, yes, I know that because of my anatomy, certain things happen, but they shouldn't be happening this way. So that means that we need to get down to the root of it. And there's no down to the root of it. It's either a prescription or a pat on the back and out you go.
Yeah,
right?
100%. And that's coming back to like the health system as well. It has a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But like going back to my doctor, like when I was suffering from bronchitis, he was like, oh, you're too young to have that. And then I started coughing in his office. He's like, oh, that sounds like bronchitis. Like, just told you.
Really? Yeah, I know.
And he's like, how did you get bronchitis at such a young age? And I was like,
I don't think it discriminates. Like, what?
So
I can't.
whichever. It just makes me laugh because that's the thing is that you have to, and that's part of the show again, we have to be advocates for ourselves, for our children, and really trying to like educate ourselves in different ways. Sometimes, yeah, Google's not like always the good place to go.
No.
You can go downward spiral, but at least it's a starting point somewhere. And so you need to start asking yourself, where else can I look for to educate myself?
Right.
Wow.
Oh, we've got a comment. Do you want to say hi, Brittney?
Hi, Caleb. Is that how you say it? Yes.
Hopefully.
If we got it wrong, please let us know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hello. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this forever.
Yes, definitely. But I really wanted to hone in on, before we chat on that, because I was just looking at the time, that we are already at the 30-minute midway point. For those who are just tuning in, you're listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. We are live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Circling back to my comment, because everyone's like, where was Brittney going with this comment about education systems? Because we segued completely crazy off. Not crazy off, but you know. Hi, Brandon. That's my lovely friend supporting us.
Oh, amazing. I love it when people come in. Hello, everyone.
Segueing back to the school system, I just really want, it's gotten a lot better, and I'm going to learn how it's changed since I've been in the school system. However, there's still the old way that is still set. I'm just learning this, that they don't use letter grades, which is very odd to me. I don't know, does Ontario use letter grades?
I think last time I checked, I think it was for the elementary grades, but then once you get up to like grade 8 and on, I think in my old school, grade 8 had a combination, and then high school is all percentages.
See, I have mixed feelings on this. Let me tell you.
That's great.
Okay.
I love it.
At first, I'm like, oh, like maybe I have to always be a perfectionist as like my A's and whatever. But I've been watching so many shows on ADHD. Apparently, that's part of the trigger for women is being like the perfectionist of steady grades.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yep.
So just again,
I can relate. I can 100% relate. Yep.
Right. So I do think having those expectations, though, of certain letter grades is crazy to me. However, now you're preparing the younger generation. It's not to not care about letter grades, but how are we priming them when they go to university and then all of a sudden
we're not.
You have to do? No, I think we've gone backwards now.
No, we're not, because it's so funny. I have to, just one comment about my education is, so I went to school in Burlington, Ontario, and I went to school at a relatively small high school, so I think to me that was a privilege because we didn't have like overcrowded classrooms, and I think we were able to learn really cool subjects, especially in our later grades. So I had two teachers who were amazing. I think that we're actually friends, like not in school. They wouldn't, I don't know if they would say that, but like you can totally tell now as an adult that they were. And they weren't young teachers by any means. They weren't old, but they were like, they had the experience necessary. So you could go both ways. Like they could have been like really old school. They could have been like cool and kind of adapted, and they were the two that adapted really well. And because they had a lot of grade 12 students, they incorporated in their materials the style of learning that you would have had at university, which those were the only two grades that I experienced that in. So while it was crazy that we had, I think his name was Mr. Parnaby, loved him. he would give us like 60 pages to read, and you were like, whoa. But that is very typical of what you would receive in university. To cut, and he made us get used to that, to be like, okay, don't be scared about the volume, see what it is about, digest it. And he would always give us readings that were higher level than high school. And in that regard, I think they prepared us really well. But I don't think that was a school-wide or school board-wide situation. I think they were just really good teachers, and that was their passion, and those would be like the people that would pick over and over again to be teachers, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. There's many great teachers out there that go above and beyond. So going back to a bit of my story, like, even though I've been told I couldn't like be in a lot of different classes or whichever, like one teacher, for example, I remember his name, Mr. Materi, if you're listening to this.
Uh-oh.
He put on my school record in middle school that I was too dumb to go into calculus.
Oh my God.
Right?
Seriously?
Yeah. And I kid you not, every kind of point in my schooling, I've always been told I was too dumb to be there. So it's like, no, let's challenge that. You're too dumb to be here because I'm going to outsmart you some way. You know? That
is wild to me.
Exactly. And that's the whole point of the show, because no one has the right to tell you that you're dumb, stupid, or whichever. We are all worthy of being wherever we want to be in our life.
Oh my God. So hold on. Before you go off, I just want to point out, like, that's what you grew up with. And here you are, a successful entrepreneur. You are in charge of many, many people. You're putting out, you know, a show that will help other people. You're involved with the community. How does that translate into all of those negative, like, feelings that you've had growing up? I think this is wild to me, and you're a perfect example of don't let somebody else like rain on your parade. It's your parade. You make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, I think it's I know there's a lot of neurodiversity individuals, specifically those who have dyslexia, were very resilient. Studies have shown that. However, it depends. I think it also comes to who is within your system to build you up and bring you down as well. So I think if you're in the school system and they're like, you are stupid, and then you're like, oh my goodness, and then you don't have that support system at home, I think you're just going to go in a downward spiral. I was very fortunate to have a mom to really make sure I had the extra support. We did like so much tutoring. I went to Sylvan, I went to 4Rs. Like, I was constantly working my butt off. And now I have my degree in marketing communications. And by the way, I also was told that I shouldn't have a degree in marketing communications because I have dyslexia. And I challenged that.
How does that even, so who told you that?
I don't want to name names.
Oh, no, sorry. Like in your life, like what stage was it at?
In university.
Oh, in university. So like somebody that was like an official in university had said that to you. That is wild to me. So you have an undergrad in marketing and communications.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I have my diploma in tourism hospitality, undergrad in marketing communications, and now a certified business coach, imposter syndrome coach. And that's the thing, like, I think that's part of the initiative of the show. Like, we're going to see so many different stories that I'm so excited to bring all these different guests in to really challenge the narrative, because we can make our own narrative. So,
of course,
going back to Mr. Materi, like, I don't mind saying his name. Apparently, he's been fired.
I've heard for good measures. I didn't say that. It's fine.
But it's been told that he's what I've heard anyways, very negative person to students. And the thing is, when students are going through the changes of life, like, there's just so much change as an individual, and then you're always getting honed down that you're not good enough, like you can't thrive. So he put on my school record before I went to high school to put me in essentials. So essentials math.
For us it was different. You mean, so you know, you have different levels of classes. The essentials was the first level, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so he said, make sure you put Brittney in this class. And for whatever reason, I was put in calculus. And I got pulled out. by Mr. Grenis, and love him. My favorite math teacher.
Right.
And actually, I'm really good friends with his daughter. And then Mrs. Peru, Mrs. Lu. I remember these names. You really remember that, really supported you. Mrs. Lee Hu and my mom. And so they pulled me out and they're like, we have X, Y, and Z on this document. What we want to ask you, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm staying here in this class because I believe I belong here.
Right. Totally. And again, I think this kind of comes down like on the system first, because they're the ones that we're interesting, that we're putting your kids into on the system first. And second, as an individual, like as a teacher, if you know that there are certain things that you can't stand or can't deal with in a positive manner, and that's part of your job, then you shouldn't be in that job. You're working with really young minds. It is not appropriate. And that comes down to accountability, like professional, individual self-accountability. I would feel horrible if one of the kids that I used to be in charge of at camp would come up to me 10 years later to be like, you totally told me this and this affected me until like I went to high school or something. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I'd be horrified. Yeah. Here we have another comment here.
Brandon's just going to like give us so many comments. Thank you, Brandon.
That's okay. Go ahead.
It says, Mr. Curtis, my middle school history teacher, will always be my favorite. Love that guy.
Oh,
you really remember the good teachers. Like Mrs. Brown was my grade 1 teacher. Mrs. Lee, who I mentioned, was actually in my middle school. So she I know they call it something else now, but it's kind of like where you get extra help when you need extra learning, extra time to do tests.
I think they're all named differently based on the program in the school and whatever else.
I can't remember the name of it. Oh, the Learning Disability Center.
Oh, okay.
That name needs to be changed because
it's funny. So my perspective will totally be different than yours or the next person's. But my perspective is this: like I grew up thinking that there was nothing wrong with me. And while that's a comforting thought, I struggled a lot through a lot of different phases. It was never the content, it was how I was going about the studying, the reading, the whatever. In high school, it was okay because I feel like it worked with my brain and they were like little bite-sized like pieces. But once I got to university, I performed really well where I understood the content. For the most part, it's great. My degree is actually in criminology, sociology, that kind of thing. So there was a lot of reading and a lot of papers. But sitting down and writing those papers, I literally have like PTSD thinking about it and how. No, but for real, like, and people talk about students procrastinating and stuff, and I thought that it was always normal. So remember, I grew up with the idea that I'm fine, so I must just be lazy or something. Yeah. So I would sit there and I would procrastinate, and I would even say this to my mom. I was like, I'm not even enjoying the time that I'm taking from not doing this. I'm sitting there just like making myself feel horrible, thinking that you're just lazy, that's why you don't want to start this. And here we are thinking that no, you just needed to go a different way about it. Your brain needed dopamine in order to like rev up to do it, because once I sat down and did it, it was like bam, done, great, check. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think and that's such an important, thank you for sharing that with all of us. I think that's like such an important conversation to be told, like to start talking more about, because I was always kind of like, because we had to give like a yellow piece of paper to our teacher to let them know that I need extra support. Like it was always the start at the very first of every class, and I had to walk up and give the yellow piece of paper and
in front of everybody else.
In front of everybody.
Oh my God.
And it's like, how do you like to traumatize people? Like, why couldn't you?
Because they're not thinking about it. They're just
Exactly.
thinking about the process. It's like, oh, how do we let the teachers know? Well, that actually should be an internal process that
Yeah.
you need to deal with. You can't be putting that on the students in front of the other students. And I know there's going to be people in the comments and call us snowflakes and whatever else, but I truly think that when we put these processes into place,
Mhm.
that it's the people that don't have experience with it or don't understand. The moment you said that you had to walk up with a yellow piece of paper, my brain went, all those students know what that piece of paper means,
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
right? And then you have to live with it every day.
Exactly. And then you're already labeled. Because in our school, like I assume too, you had to learn French.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of French because I needed an extra spare block to support me with my studies.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people would question, there was only like 2 French teachers, I think, in the school. So you would know when somebody wasn't in French class too.
Right.
So it's just kind of like an awkward conversation of like, well, why do you get out of French when we all have to be here? And it's
Right.
like,
Right. There's just no support systems in place that make sense for people that need extra help. And I think about this all the time with my kid too. Like,
yeah.
if he ever needed extra help, one, how would I recognize it? And that was a big part of my life, is like nobody recognized it. Nobody. Like, the people in my life would just kind of mirror what I was saying to myself. It's like, oh, well, you just kind of have to like sit down and do it. Like, if it was that easy, do you not think that I'd be sitting down and doing it?
Yeah.
Like, now as an adult, I've learned some coping mechanisms, and I've learned how to go about making myself, like, my brain just get into gear the
Mm-hmm.
moment I want it to. Like, when you take initiative, that's when I want my brain to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not open enough to understand that it's not really a disability, it's just a different way of thinking, then you're not going to be the person that's going to understand anything that we're talking about here, right?
100%.
And that's okay. And I'm really glad that you have this show so that you can educate people. And you know, and you talked about resilience. I know that you had a question about, I'm trying to scroll here to find it because I thought it was good. How crucial is it for individuals to challenge conventional thinking or societal expectations in carving out a fulfilling career or business? So when I see this question, I think of you as well. Like, you're a perfect example of, like, you were resilient. Even though you dealt with so much crap, right, that was thrown at you, you were resilient. So you challenged the way that everybody else thought about it. And in a way, I did too. I came from a very strict environment. Like, I worked in law. It wasn't the best experience. I loved the work, but not the hierarchy and the people, to be honest. And it was always like well, like, you're just gonna be a clerk. Anybody that knows, like, in Ontario, you're licensed to be a paralegal, and how would I explain it? If you ever see a physician's assistant versus a doctor, it's kind of the same. You're allowed to practice in some areas, but not quite fully as a doctor. So I went to school and I got my postgrad on top of my undergraduate degree, even after I swore I was never going back to school. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And then I was like, okay, now what? The conventional way is like, okay, now that you have this degree, like, you just have to work as a paralegal for the rest of your life. The industry is not built to support paralegals. There are so many of us, and like, there was a lot of like, well, we don't want paralegals to be able to practice in family law or whatever. There's a lot of clash between, like, the lawyers and whatever else. There's some that embrace it, some that don't. And the reason why they put paralegals in place is to alleviate a lot of the legal areas for people who can't afford, right, to get a lawyer or whatever else in these very common situations, like landlord and tenant board issues, or, you know, small claims court and whatever. So in theory it makes sense, but in practice it doesn't. So I kind of came out of it being like, so I'm just going to be a clerk for the rest of my life. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you can be a clerk without going to school and without getting all the certifications and licensing and what, like, you have to jump through so many hoops. So then I said, you know what? I'm going to challenge this, like, that's what you went to school for, that's what you are going to become. And it was like, I'm going to work for myself, period. And a lot of people were like, what do you mean? Like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, if you think that I'm not using the knowledge that I learned from my work experience and school, you're wrong.
I really think that the world is going to be changing. I keep saying this, especially for the next generation, that we're going to see more entrepreneurs than ever. the regular 9 to 5 is going to kind of switch. I don't know what it's fully going to look like, but
Yep.
there's just going to be so many more entrepreneurs out there killing it, because at the end of the day, if you look at it, like just getting 2 weeks off throughout the year when you're really always busting your butt, like, because I used to work in the tech industry, and I'm just I would stay late, bring work home, and then it's just kind of like you didn't get like acknowledged for it. And it's like,
No.
why am I doing this and busting my butt when nobody really cares? So like I started going down like in a cycle of like depression, really,
Right.
because I wasn't being challenged. I was depressed. It was just not a good situation. And luckily I had my daughter and brought me out, and I'll never go into another 9 to 5 ever again, because I've realized my brain doesn't work for a 9 to 5. I'm such an entrepreneur because I love to do so many things. I wear so many hats, but I know how to switch in and out really fast. That's what I'm really good at doing. So yeah.
It's job satisfaction. I've said this before too in my show. It's like, if you don't get job satisfaction, do you really think you're going to last 30 years?
Exactly.
You're not going to. I promise you. And if you do, you're going to be this close to losing your goddamn mind. And I see this in specific industries, and it's funny, in the legal industry, at least for stats here in Ontario, for the legal industry, there's a lot of like mental health breakdown, a lot of burnout, a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of drug abuse, because you're in such high stress situations day in and day out, just to be able to make a paycheck, pay bills, whatever, that it doesn't. Imagine those people being at the top and you working on like your way up from the bottom. Of course nobody's going to pat you on your back. Of course nobody's going to like realize what you're doing. They're dealing with their own things. Should that be the case? No. And I always say, not everybody that runs a business or is a high level position can be a people manager.
Yes.
Those are skills that you either have naturally or they need to be learned. If you are not in between those, you're not doing something right here. So I also felt the same way. Wasn't getting the satisfaction that I wanted to, even though I knew I was working my butt off, and I really loved law, and I really loved, it's like solving pieces or like reacting in an appropriate way to a problem. You're trying to bring them the solution. So in a way, I kind of took that and I made it into now, like, I'm bringing solutions too. Do I use certain legal things sometimes? Yeah, I do, because I can navigate the systems that are in. That was my experience too. It's like, why would I be sitting here for 30 years if I'm not getting anything out of it, right?
Exactly. And I want to just challenge anyone who are employers listening, because I just had this conversation with somebody else, and they're like, Brittney, I like your model, but your subcontractors, or majority of people who are subcontractors, probably won't be long-term employees. I'm like, I'm going to challenge that right there. They are happy because they're actually doing what they want to do. They're telling you how many hours they want to work. They're working on the thing that they want to specialize on. You're probably going to have somebody more long-term as a subcontractor than an employee.
I agree, 100%. And it's hard for the people that are in the traditional 9 to 5 like employer mentality, because there's a lot that's happened since COVID, and we had like the great resignation, and then we had this boom in the market where all of these employees were looking for jobs, but they weren't accepting any because the market hadn't caught up with what it is. Because think about it this way: why would you tie yourself down to somebody where you may get a 2% raise every year? You are going to be told what hours to work. You're going to be told exactly what to do, and you have to conform. You potentially might have to conform to the business needs, because that's what an employee does. So if somebody leaves, you have to pick up extra things. You have to do whatever.
Yeah.
When you can be choosing your own hours, choosing what you want to work on, if you're good at making connections, you can make connections very easily and get jobs immediately. Right? And you get to be home with your kids when you want to, and you get to take vacation when you want to. I don't have to ask a soul if I need to book off a week. Not a soul. Do you know how freeing that is to me?
I know. I can relate 100%. 2 little ones, like, you need, and also we have no before or after school care for kindergarten.
Right.
My daughter's still on the wait list. So this the piece of flexibility, but then also knowing that you don't have to not that you don't have to answer anyone because you have your clients, but you just know that you've built the foundational business that has made you happy and you can thrive. And I really think the way of the world, I keep saying this and I will keep saying this, will consistently change, because we already see it with a lot of youth who now are like influencers and all the things on YouTube and all, like we're just on the up and up of change. And to be honest, as an entrepreneur who is also neurodivergent and can't stand the 9 to 5, I'm excited to see the change, because it's about time that we transition into this kind of life. And even for those who are 9 to 5, like it'd be nice to see, like I think it's in Switzerland, it's 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Italy, Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday. I can't remember. I believe they have majority of them like the Friday, so they have like the extra weekend, and then even shorter days. It's not like a full 9 to 5 day. It is 9 to 3, and stats have shown they're more productive. So what are we doing over here? And
it's wild. It's honestly wild. It's just the way that I associate it with like your manager being over your shoulder. So I recently saw a video where this millennial, I guess, went up to I guess it was the boomer age boss, and was putting forward a proposal for a 4-day week, and the boss was just like, well, what are you gonna do with the extra day? It's like, well, no, like you need to worry about the 4 days. The other day is for me. Right? It's like, but what are you going to do? It's like, it doesn't matter. I can get this work done that's been assigned to me in 4 days. So the same value for the same pay. I just don't have to be here an extra. And it was just such a mind-blowing concept for the boss that was just like, no. Right? It's kind of like holding you back from progress. Just depends on who they are, what their mindset is. And we talk a lot too in my show too about mindset and about learning from failure, but also learning from what's coming up. So I have this fear that as an entrepreneur that works with other people, that has to oversee other people, that I'm going to become one of those people that doesn't listen to a better way of doing things, or that's not always in tune with what the team is thinking. So I'm terrified of that. And I'm always going to try and be like, okay, be honest. What's going on? Tell me. How can we do this better? Right? But unfortunately, not everybody is like that.
No. And again, going back to like full circle from our conversation from not to judge. However, I think we need to come from the stance of we need to kind of ask more curious questions and just not assume. But with that, we're almost at the end of our first show at Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. I'm so excited that Adriana came in here to help and support me, because I'm not going to lie, I was so nervous. You see me swirling on my chair. I was just saying to Adriana before we jumped in here, this is probably the worst chair for somebody who has ADHD, because I'm like, oh, me.
I do that too. I just kind of like turn.
Fidgeting over here a little bit,
That's
trying not
hilarious.
to. But Adriana, thank you so much for coming in on my first show. I would love to have you back on many more, obviously. And thank you for our listeners and the comments that came in. And also a big thank you for the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. Come in next week. I have Nicole coming in, and we're chatting about navigating the coaching landscaping and spotting the red flags. Now go on your unique journey, and you'll know that your worth is priceless. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.